Level 1, the diver. You are a striker. MetLife Stadium, New Jersey. June 2026, World Cup quarterfinal. 83 minutes on the clock. Your team is down by 1. The penalty area is packed, and Lucas Ferreira, number 4 from Lyon, is 2 steps to your right in closing. His hand is near your shoulder. Not on it. Near it. You make the decision before contact happens. That is the part nobody talks about. It is not instinct. It is a calculation that takes less than half a second and uses everything 17 years of professional football has built into your body. The angle of your descent. The position of the referee, 38 meters to your left with a clean sightline. The fact that Ferreira's arm is close enough to look real on slow motion replay. The fact that your team has no other route through this match. You go down. The referee's whistle takes 2 seconds. They feel like 9. He points to the spot. You stand up. You don't look at Ferreira. You don't need to. You already know what his face looks like. The fall was the smallest thing on this list. Everything after this is a different category. Level 2. The architect. You are the manager. It is 5:47 a.m. on the day of the semifinal. The hotel conference room smells like dry erase marker and recycled air. You are the only person in it. The whiteboard has one name on it. Adriano Silva, number 10, Porto. 31 caps, 6 World Cup goals, left knee reconstructed in February 2024, fully recovered, fully dangerous. You draw a circle around his name. You know this not from the rulebook, but from 15 years of watching referees make decisions about what is competitive and what is criminal, and understanding exactly where that line sits at 5:47 a.m. when nobody is watching you draw it. 3 of your players will touch him in the first 22 minutes. Not hard, not recklessly. Purposefully. Left ankle, twice. Right hip, once. Nothing that earns a card individually. Everything that earns something by the 40th minute. The third challenge is the one that matters. You cap the marker. You look at the circle around his name. You will tell your players this is defensive discipline. They will understand what you mean. Stopping a man and stopping a result are 2 different sciences. You have studied both. Level 3, the kit man. You are the equipment manager. Nobody watches the kit man. That is not an observation. That is a professional assessment you made during your first tournament in 2010 and have been building a career on ever since. You are under MetLife Stadium 91 minutes before kickoff. The boots are lined up in 2 rows on the folding table. 16 pairs. You move down the left row with the gauge in your hand. The gauge you have owned since South Africa. The one that reads 0.2 psi, lower than the official FIFA inspection unit. You know this not because you tested it once, because you tested it 47 times. FIFA regulations require match balls inflated between 8.5 and 15.6 psi. The inspector will check 2 balls before the match. There are 22 on the rack. You know which 2 he checks first. You have watched him work 3 tournaments in a row. You set the others at 8.1. A softer ball curves differently at altitude, holds a wet surface differently, moves in ways that trained fingers recognize and untrained ones don't. The inspector arrives at 10:15. He checks the 2 balls near the door. He signs the form. The referee checks for weapons. Nobody checks for math. Level 4, the passport. You are the Federation president. Your office. 4 years before the tournament. The form is on your desk, and the player's name is printed at the top in clean black type. Below the name is a birthplace. It is a city he has never visited. You know this. The man sitting across from you knows this. The notary who will stamp it tomorrow morning knows this. Nobody says it out loud. That is not how this works. FIFA Article 6 allows a player to represent a nation if one grandparent was born within its borders. The grandfather's documents arrived last Tuesday in a manila envelope from a law office in Lisbon. They are accurate in every technical sense. The grandfather existed. The city existed. The dates are correct. Whether he ever lived there is a question the document does not ask. You have 41 days before the eligibility window closes. FIFA's review process takes 60 minimum. You know this not from the rulebook, but from the 3 federations who ran this same calculation before you and are currently fielding those players at senior level without incident. You sign the form, you slide it back across the desk. FIFA has a process for reviewing this. Everyone in this building knows how long that process takes. Level 5, the needle. You are the team doctor. The vial is labeled correctly. The label is accurate. What is inside it is not. Hotel room 412, 2 days before the group stage opener. The player sitting on the edge of the bed is 24 years old and has not asked what is in the vial. That is the arrangement. You explain recovery protocols. You explain vitamin supplementation. You explain the legal framework of therapeutic use exemptions, which FIFA and WADA both recognize, and neither monitors closely enough during tournament windows. You do not explain the EPO. Synthetic erythropoietin increases red blood cell production. More red blood cells carry more oxygen to muscle tissue. More oxygen means a player who runs at full capacity in the 89th minute of a knockout match instead of 80%. The detection window is 72 hours. WADA conducts an average of 600 tests across an entire World Cup. There are 736 players in this tournament. You have done this calculation before. You did it in Athens. You did it in Brazil. The vial you are holding is the same brand you have carried since 2004. Only the label has changed. The player rolls up his sleeve. If you are still watching, subscribe. The next level is where the real money enters the room. Level 6. The envelope. You are the fixer. You never meet the referee directly. That is the first thing you learn in this business. It is also the last thing anyone has to teach you. A hotel bar. In a city that does not need naming. 12 days before kickoff. The man across from you works for a sports consultancy registered in Cyprus. He represents a client group with significant interests in Asian betting markets. He orders water. You order water. The conversation lasts 19 minutes and contains nothing that would mean anything to anyone listening. You know this not from experience alone, but from the 2013 Europol report that documented 680 suspicious matches across global football and resulted in exactly 0 top-tier prosecutions. You read that report carefully. It was instructive in ways its authors did not intend. The financial mechanism is not an envelope. That is cinema. It is a consultancy invoice, an image rights agreement, a speaking fee for an appearance that never happens. The money moves through 4 jurisdictions before it arrives. The referee has a mortgage, a daughter starting university in September. You know this because knowing this is your job. The result was decided 72 hours before kickoff. The players just have to perform it convincingly. Level 7. The signal. You are the captain. The manager closes the door. He doesn't sit down. You have played under him for 3 years. You know the difference between the conversation where he stands and the conversation where he sits. You look at the door handle twice during the first 30 seconds. Not because you want to leave, because you want to remember that you didn't. He doesn't use direct language. Nobody in this chain ever uses direct language. He talks about the group stage draw, about what a quarterfinal exit means for certain contracts, certain renewal clauses, certain commercial arrangements that 12 players on this squad depend on more than they will ever say publicly. He talks about the round of 16 match the way men talk about things that have already been decided. Not a bribe, not a demand. A conversation about what certain results make possible. You know what he is describing. You know it not from rumor, but from the 2006 Calciopoli recordings, and the questions nobody fully answered about 3 matches in the 2002 Korean semifinal run. You have watched those matches. You know what deliberate looks like when it is performed well. He finishes. He opens the door. You win the match. Something else doesn't. Level 8. The vote. You are the bid committee chairman. The envelope is already sealed before you walk into the room. Zurich, a conference center that smells like carpet cleaning fluid and institutional coffee. 6 years before the tournament. There are 22 voting members of the FIFA Executive Committee seated around a table that cost more than most national federation annual budgets. You have spoken personally with 14 of them in the past 8 months. Not in rooms like this. In restaurants. In hotel suites. On the sidelines of matches where the conversation had nothing to do with football. You know this not from the committee minutes, but from what the minutes don't say. The mechanism is never direct. It is image rights payments to companies that don't produce images. It is development grants to federations that don't develop. It is the $10 million wire transfer that Chuck Blazer described to FBI investigators in 2013 after agreeing to cooperate in exchange for leniency on the tax fraud he had been committing since 1992. 14 officials indicted. Hundreds of millions documented. The tournament went ahead. The trophy hasn't been made yet. The winner has already been decided. You just have to hold the room for 6 more years. Level 9, the program. You are the Minister of Sport. Nobody called it cheating. They called it a support system. Moscow. 4 years before the tournament. The program began not in a laboratory, but in a meeting room with no agenda, on record, and no minutes taken. The people in that room had titles that had nothing to do with athletics. One of them worked for the FSB. You understood from the beginning what kind of infrastructure that implied. The McLaren report, published in 2016, documented over 1,000 Russian athletes protected across 30 sports. The mechanism was a hole in the wall. Literally. A mouse hole cut between the Sochi anti-doping laboratory and an adjacent room staffed by FSB officers during the 2014 Winter Olympics, through which contaminated urine samples were passed at night and replaced with clean ones collected months in advance. The bottles were supposedly tamper-proof. It took a screwdriver and institutional patience. Grigory Rodchenkov, the laboratory director who built the system, fled to the United States and described everything. His colleagues died in circumstances that investigators described as unexplained. You didn't bend the rules. You administered a parallel version of them. The question was never whether you'd be caught. It was whether being caught would matter. Level 10, the Echo. You are everyone. You are no one. The trophy is in a cabinet in a city the winning team chose. It has been there for 2 years. It weighs 6.175 kilograms. That is the official measurement. Ask the man who lifted it what it actually weighs. The names are still on the record books. That is the part nobody tells you when they explain how bands work. Russia competed at 3 more major tournaments under neutral flags that fooled nobody. The Qatar stadiums are still standing. The players who went down in penalty boxes are still playing. The managers who drew circles around names at 5:47 a.m. are managing other clubs now at higher levels on larger budgets. The kit man retired in 2024. He still has the gauge. What the band weighs share is not complexity. It is not money, not infrastructure, not access. It is a single calculation made at different levels by different people in different rooms who all arrived at the same answer. That being caught was a risk worth running. That the trophy, or the result, or the contract, or the vote weighed more than everything it cost. Every banned way to win the World Cup has one thing in common. Somebody tried it, somebody got away with it, and somebody is trying it right now.